A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to all the participants to Asian School of Business, a unit of Asian education. We are delighted and honored to host the international conference organized by the Research and Development Cell of Asian School of Business. We have the eminent guests of the event joining us virtually, Ms. Anka Verma, Chairperson, All India World.
Thank you. Good morning.
Mr. Apurva Chamaria, SVP and Chief of Staff to CEO and MD at Tech Mahindra.
Thank you and pleasure to be here.
Welcome you, sir. From the campus on the dais, we have amongst us Dr. Lalitya V. Srivastava, Director, Asian Education Group.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, sir. Dr. Maruf Ahmed Mir, Dean, Asian School of Business.
Good morning, everyone.
And Professor Purnima Singh, Academic Convener, Asian School of Business.
Good morning, everyone.
The management of technological innovation is both an art as well as a science. The process involves the know-how and technological core skills to deliver the functionality on one hand, and the ability to identify changes in technologies to come up with new innovations on the other. The accelerated technological changes have implications for business. Business has got a new face with the disruption brought by the technology and passion for innovation. New technological developments have changed the way organizations plan, operate, hire, manage, market, sell, and communicate and make profit. This new wave of technology and internet has triggered companies towards a new business ecosystem. It's impacting business management unlike never before. As businesses today are getting more digital, be it day-to-day operations, communications, connectedness. The theme of today's international conference is therefore emerging business interventions for managing technology and innovation. Let's begin by invoking the blessings and benign presence of Lord Ganesha. I request all our dignitaries, eminent guests who are present virtually, and the guests on the dais to please join us for the lamp lighting ceremony. Thank you so much, everyone. To grace the occasion, we have amongst us several luminaries, our esteemed guests who have virtually joined us. I welcome Ms. Anka Verma, Chairperson, All India World. Ms. Anka Verma is the Chairperson of All India World, a multinational FMCG company with interests in infrastructure, hospitality, aviation, and financial services sectors. She's a graduate from the University of Galati with a master's degree in engineering. In the modeling world, she has won the Miss Romania title and has been the most sought after model in Romania. After leaving modeling, she was appointed as the Deputy General Manager in Bucharest operations with Atlas Telecom Network Romania, a mobile service provider. In 2011, she was appointed the Managing Director of SIGSAR India, a joint venture with a multinational weapons contractor. In the same year, she introduced All India brand in India, which made its commercial launch in 2016. She's presently the chairperson of All India World, which is a leading multinational FMCG company manufacturing cigarettes, spirits, cola, dairy products, and prepaid debit cards with 85 other business verticals worldwide. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would love to thank for having me here, ladies and gentlemen, and this distinguished guest. I am honored to be here, and as the new life, it's happening a little bit behind the glasses, as we have all of us to adapt ourselves. It's a pleasure to be virtually. These days, it's something new for us, but I believe became a little bit more practical, and we can be in many places, many parts of the world on the same time, or maybe in a very short spare of time. You know, it's like you have a conference here, and in the next 2 hours you are in a conference in London. So that's the beautiful part of the technology, which a little bit was accelerated, let's say, to due to the corona, because all this technology exists for a long time, but we never thought of using so intensely actually. But today I am here and it's an honor to be here with your distinguished guests, and lovely to be before the students, international students. And as you said, there'll be more than 100 or 1,000 students all over the world. And we cannot see at the moment, but we believe that they are there and they'll listen us. If not, they'll see a recording.
Thank you, ma'am. And we will be waiting for your address. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So as today we have seen here that Asian School of Business, which is part of Asian Education Group, and I'm honored to be here. Thanks to Mr. Sandeep Marwa, who's one of the founder. And of course, a big thanks I would like to say to Mr. Ravi Sharma for inviting me here. And thanking to all of you dedicating time for the students. So on speaking, I've noticed that you have an emerging business intervention for managing technology and innovation. Yes, I'm an IT engineering, of course, by graduation, but the life change, and we end up of doing our FMCG food and all food and consumption thing, which has indeed we need engineering for creating a chain and everything for distribution and all. First of all, I would like to make a small correction. The name of the company is Ulala. Indeed, it's spelling Olialia because of Lithuanian language. So our brand, it's called Ulala. Now, speaking about business technology management techniques, allow you to unify business and technologies decision making. Setting up guidelines known as capabilities enable you to organize operational practices and improve performance. Typically, each organization's tool and standards are unique. So all this, now here we have Asian Business School, which has to teach all the companies and of course through their students how to implement the rules and the tools which will give for each company will give the best solution. As we said, the coverage results in a better utilization by everyone, and every tools needs to be customized as per the customer. Use of a project management methodology, such as project management body or knowledge or the capability maturity model, enables specific management techniques for specialized needs. The goal is to produce operational improvement. The problem is that each of these tools address one organization need, and as I said, is not addressing to everyone. Can be good for a company, but cannot fit for others. So all needs to be adjusted and to be other related function. Business technology management techniques fill this gap and attempt to deliver a seamless strategic management plan. To implement business technology management principle creates comprehensive, flexible process. The object is to reduce redundancy and build off practices that work effectively. Next, ensure that the governance is performed by the senior stakeholder in your companies by centralizing sponsorship, as you can assure a consistent directive and activities aligning to strategic goals. Business technology management competencies achieved by repeating these management activities result in organization activity. Select and execute proposed projects that align with the strategic goals for each functional area of your business. Develop short and long strategic plans and business associated budgets. By matching funds with the project needs of your evolving business, you can best utilize all business technologies available. Create a long-term architecture that aligns you with your company industry as a whole. As you are able to compete each other on this task, your company functions at increasing levels of maturity. The result is continuing success of the business technology management, which enables efficient execution of company's vision statement. Now, speaking on today, as we mentioned, we have proud. We are proud to have the students, the new generation, which today they are more brilliant than we used to be in our school. Because why? Not that we don't have the capacity, we didn't have the capacity at the same age, but the tools which are available these days are empowering the knowledge, are giving them all tools available to be able to improve their education, to invent, to become more inventive, which is required in all these kind of tools. So being here, I'm more than honored to be a former student of the management of the IT, and I wish to all the students reach to the high, make us proud, and make your parents proud, because definitely every parent is so happy when their kids are reaching in the highest position. So I would like to thank you for having me here, and I would like to see the function going ahead.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for envisioning us with your valued knowledge on the topic. Moving forward, the second eminent guest joining us virtually is Mr. Apurva Chamaria, SVP and Chief of Staff and to CEO and MD at Tech Mahindra, who has joined us virtually. Mr. Apurva Chamaria is Senior Vice President and Chief of Staff at Tech Mahindra. In this role, he's responsible for global strategy. Prior to this, he was the Chief Revenue Officer at RateGain, the world's leading SaaS provider to travel and hospitality sectors. In his previous stint at HCL, he headed corporate marketing and was responsible for brand marketing, employer brand, employee marketing, thought leadership, digital marketing, analytics, finance, and marketing. As a part of the leadership team, he worked to successfully identify, acquire, and integrate the Exxon Group PLC acquisition worth £441 million. He was involved in setting up the marketing organization, processes and systems in HCL, and in the initial days worked as the category manager for the life sciences and the retail. He also possesses pharmaceutical industry experience, having worked in various sales and marketing positions at Ranbaxy Laboratories, now Sun Pharma. We welcome you, sir. We have amongst us the honorable members on the dais. We have with us Dr. Lalitya V. Srivastava, Director, Asian Education Group. Dr. Lalitya V. Srivastava, Director, AEG, is a healthy blend of academics and industry with rich mix of experience of more than 21 years in national and multinational organizations at various managerial levels. He has completed his MBA in Marketing, PGDBA in Foreign Trade and HR, PGDIR PM, and Doctorate in Management from renowned institutions. He has contributed in the field of research on emerging issues of management and industry, which have been adjudged the best in national and international conferences. He has conducted many corporate trainings, workshops for faculty development, skill enhancement programs for sales professionals in industry, and product training for members of the Federation of Obstetric and Gynecological Societies of India. During his corporate tenure, he developed the strategy for major brands he worked for. His knowledge and professional skills are reflected in his innovative teaching methodology that connects the classroom learning with real corporate applications. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Maruf Ahmed Mir, Dean, Asian School of Business. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Professor Purnima Singh, Academic Convener, Asian School of Business. We welcome you, ma'am. To commence the conference, I would now like to request Dr. Maruf Ahmed Mir, Dean, Asian School of Business, to please deliver the welcome address.
Good morning, one and all present, virtually and physically here in the campus. On behalf of Asian School of Business, which is a unit of Asian Education Group, and on behalf of the Research and Development Cell at Asian School of Business, I welcome you all to the ASPIC 2021 International Conference on Emerging Business Interventions for Managing Technology and Innovation at ASB. I welcome all the guests, especially the guests who are right now in the panel, Ms. Anka Verma and Ms. Apurva Chamaria. I welcome all the authors, the other guests for the other sessions, the participants who have joined us virtually from different parts of the world, including Turkey, Romania, Saudi Arabia, USA, UK, London, which makes this conference truly international. Ladies and gentlemen, the Research and Development Cell at Asian School of Business operates with a mission to become a center for excellence in management education by focused research pursuits through an interface with industry and academia. The cell is continuously working towards achieving this mission by conducting national seminars, international conferences, management development programs, faculty development programs, publications of journals, workshops, and the similar activities. The students are the central part of this mission, which you will observe in the later part in the technical sessions, where almost 30% of the presenters out of 117 authors across the globe are the students. Ladies and gentlemen, in line with the mission of R&D Cell at Asian School of Business, we organize every year international conference on the topics which demand serious attention of industry and academia. And we call it ASBIC, the acronym, Asian School of Business International Conference. COVID-19 could not stop us organizing the international conference, though a few months back, there were bleak chances of organizing such an event. The technology has enabled us to manage this international conference even better this year, because we have in every session the international speakers, including the chairs. The 50% of the technical session chairs are from the countries across the globe. We have seen the worst in the recent times. The COVID hit us almost for a year, but I'm sure we all believe the worst is over now. We are on the recovery phase, but let's not forget, there has been huge loss in terms of loss in revenue of the companies across the globe, of the governments across the globe, in terms of loss of employment. Millions of people have lost their job. But believe me, there are corporates who have taken advantage of the stunning developments in e-commerce. Companies have enabled digital sales, which we can see, especially in the companies related to the IT field and the pharmaceutical industry. Every crisis has different phases: the depression, the stagnant phase, and the recovery. I think all of us, except maybe few countries, believe that we are at the recovery stage. But ladies and gentlemen, the crisis leadership is a double-edged sword. The same skills and the reactions that allow you to perform well in the emergency may become destructive when you try to return to the normal. And we somehow start believing that technology is the most important factor, and it is what plays the role. But I think we forget that it is the human brain, the human intellect, which is behind this technology. And when it comes to the industry, without the strong collaboration with the academia, it's not possible. Because industry needs people, and the people are groomed by the academicians. That is the reason that we have today this international conference, where we will discuss about the academicians and the industry people will collaborate, discuss, and highlight how do we go smoothly in the recovery phase. Now, today's topic of the conference is so critical for the industry and academia to talk about these interventions, especially in managing the technology and the innovations. With this aim, I again welcome each one of you, the speakers, guests, authors, students across the globe, to this international conference. And I'm sure this conference will achieve the objectives of knowledge sharing and idea discussions of the topic of the day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for setting the tone of the conference. Now, I would like to request Dr. Lalitya V. Srivastava, Director, Asian Education Group, to please deliver the inaugural address.
Good morning, everybody. And it is always a proud privilege for me to be the part in being participative in this conferences like this. And I must congratulate the Research and Development Cell of Asian School of Business, who idly had been conducting and taking care of the research and development and developing that blend of research amongst the students and the faculty members, and conducting regularly and continuously the international conferences and seminars on various topics which are important to the industry as of now. And in the past as well, the conferences that has been conducted by Asian School of Business Research and Development Cell had been of great help to the corporate and were able to give the solutions which were being published in the journals, which were there in-house, and have been giving the beneficial solutions to the corporate problems. So with that note, I would once again like to thanks and welcome the guest online, Mr. Apuv Chamaria and Ms. Anka Verma. And thank you so much for your time that you have spared to enlighten the students and participate in this international conference, the inaugural session, because that actually pitches the tone of the entire program that has to go the day long. And the panel discussions just after the inaugural, and then the paper presentations which are being judged by the eminent academicians from across the world. When I actually talk about and think about the topic of this conference, emerging business interventions for managing technology and innovation, this had been the topic, if I look at quite for a long, with different confusions, different perceptions, different innovations which were being coming up time to time in the past as well. Whatever that you talk about, VUCA world, Industry 2.0, Industry 3.0, and what all that all what we have been discussing and talking about are to me, all these conferences that I have attended, it was sounding a fear factor for me that is it that big? Is that going to actually create that much of the problem for the industry and the globe? When technology is being developed, whatever you talk about artificial intelligence or big data analysis or whatever, it is ideally the different point of view. What I think about is this is always helpful. It is the innovation ideally need to be that how do we actually use this technology for the situations that we are in, and then how do we prepare ourselves for the unseen situations which are there going to come, and then we plan and organize, manage intervention or innovation, whatever. So all things put together is the concern that do we actually need to have that negativity, depression in the bad times when we are in. So this this pandemic time, I know the times were bad. We were locked in our homes for 3 months, 4 months, and then gradually started. But the point was many industries where there was a compulsion had to stop, and there was no solution tried in between because the lockdown was all of a sudden. But then there were certain industries who were able to think which could not stop. Say, for example, healthcare industry, which probably has done the best of their used best of their innovation and helped people in the time of pandemics. Pharmaceuticals, these Bharat serums and all these people have actually started working on the innovation, and then tried to come up with a solution to the problem of pandemic corona, as the disease, as the pandemic. So it is I look at that if you are positive about the situation and don't become panic, then probably those situational innovation can be thought of, right? As I talk about the education as the industry, at the time of pandemic, it was sounding very difficult that how do we conduct, because fortunately, unfortunately, in India, we have been following very traditional way of teaching from years together, rather the ages together, where classroom teaching was supposed to be the best of the teaching. If the student is not coming to the class, was being put a big question mark, and then a lot many things put together. But then how do we conduct the classes when you are locked at home? So then this innovation, that actually takes place, and then we thought of how do we do it, and then we thought of what technologies which are there available for us that we can use and actually give the benefits to the students, so that their years are not lost, that this particular year is not lost. So believe me, with the entire team of technology which is there in the campus, and with the support of the teachers, and with some of the consultations with the IT experts, within 48 hours we were able to put the entire campus online after the lockdown. So all the teachers were on Slack, all the teachers were given the instructions, they were trained, and some of the teachers, it was difficult, but then everybody took that initiative and took that challenge for themselves to actually go online, prepare notes, the practice of sitting in front of the camera and then taking the class online, ensuring that the students are attending the class. And then when it comes to technology, it comes with a lot of usage problems, right? So though it was all for the benefit of the students, but the students remain students, and then all those problems on the online classes, people are keeping their cameras on, then not attending the classes, sitting somewhere else. But then you had to find a solution, and then we tried contacting the parents, and then finally, gradually, in a week's time, 10 days time, it was all perfectly well, and being run the best possible way. The students were given the online classes, the notes, the preparation, and then simultaneously another big question mark was how to conduct the examinations. So those examinations also we prepared, used the technology, develop an independent server, and conducted the exam for all the students the way we used to conduct it in the campus. So the point is that, and gradually, any and every operational part of the education industry, or an educational institution, was being taken care the best possible way. And I give that big thanks to the technology, because technology was there, but we were only not using it, right? Thanks to pandemic as a situation which has given us the thought that we use this technology and minimize the losses during the pandemic, then the entire industry, all the industries and the globe were facing. So even when it comes to admissions, right, which is a very integral part of an academic institution, the entire process of admissions in our Asian Education Group, be it Asian Business School, Asian School of Business, or Asian Law College, it was done online. And to our surprise, we were able to improve the process, much better, with the incorporation of the international faculty members taking interview for our student selection process. Right, Miss Gary was there in UK, London. She used to take the final round of interview, judging the people, judging the students, whether they are worthy of getting admissions in Asian Business School, or either of the school in the Asian Education Group. So that, and with all that quality process, I tell you, this was a quality process online which was conducted, and then we were able to do the numbers what we planned to do. So that was again a great achievement that I look at, and this is out of the use of the technology. So this innovation, when I talk about today, when we are talking, we have used the technology which was there and were able to, minimize the losses. Right? It must be different for the different industry for sure. The technological usage would vary from industry to industry, people to people, institution to institution, company to company. But then the innovation need to be that situational, that we have already done. And then now onwards is the innovation that I look at as planned. That how do we plan that what all can come, what all that can be, improve further in the technology, and use it for the further development of for the benefits of the industry and the people. So that is the thought process. Probably we need to identify the problems which are there in different industry, and it gives a very good situation to analyze that normally people don't do, that introspect and see what all that we are lacking, how can we improve, and how can we make it better. So that analysis of entire thing gives you the list of improvements, and then for that list of improvements, probably the technology, that technological innovation is being developed, and then we are able to overcome the situation. So that is the theme that we look at for this conference, that various authors from entire the globe are able to put across the problems of or the situations that people, or the difficulties that the various industries are facing, and then the corporate people are able to, and the technological staff is able to find the various solutions, and make this world better for the futures to come. With that thought process, I would once again thank everybody and wish the research and development cell the good luck for this conference, and all the very best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for enlightening us with the multiple practical implications associated with today's conference theme. Vision of Asian School of Business is to promote excellence in the field of education and to meet the ever-increasing demand of quality professionals in the field of business management and computer applications. In affiliation with the CCS University, Asian School of Business facilitates tailored courses to provide students skill-based practical knowledge so as to make them industry-ready. Students get practical experience through attending conferences, on-the-job trainings, and internships. The international programs at ASB have unique international edge of learning from the best minds in the international fully paid residential workshop on business of entertainment at University of Southern California, School of Cinematic Arts Campus, Los Angeles, USA, leading to international certifications, highly acclaimed in the media and entertainment industry. Research at Asian School of Business aims at the advancement and dissemination of knowledge, to add value to the existing management practices, and development of new concepts and ideas in management. ASB publishes a biannual peer-reviewed journal, ASB Journal of Management and IT. The journal contains well-researched articles in diverse fields written by eminent academicians and professionals across the globe. I request Director Sir to please do the honors and release the conference souvenir, and we would be highly obliged if our guests could join us virtually.
Very good.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. As we move forward, I would request our esteemed guest for the event, Mr. Apurva Chamaria, please address the gathering.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you to everyone for having me over. So innovation and technology management today is an inevitable issue in the high-end technological and innovative organizations. Today, most of the innovations are, at least path-breaking innovations are limited to developed countries like US, Japan, and Europe, while a lot of developing countries are still behind in the field of innovation and management of technology. It's becoming a subject for rapid progress and development in developing countries. When you always think about innovation, you think about Silicon Valley. Today, most of the innovations, 80% of the innovations are done by 12 countries in the world. Very surprising. For instance, IBM, Apple, Sony, Novartis, if you think about pharmaceuticals, Samsung have been at the cutting edge and account for more than 60% of patents filed. These companies not only have state-of-the-art R&D centers, but are also investing a disproportionate amount of their revenue in innovation and breakthrough management ideas. Innovation is to think out of the box and think differently. It's all about finding new things, ideas, concepts, developments, improvements, and ways to do things and to obtain strategic advantages. Some innovations are based on existing form, composition, process, and idea, while others could be based on radical or breakthrough ideas. Business innovators define a new idea, method, or device that meets the needs of a targeted customer base and that is accessible to them, creating financial value for their companies and partners. Sometimes innovation is referred to as new technology, but many innovations are neither new or involve new technology. For example, the concept of self-service was popularized by McDonald's, involved running a restaurant in a different way rather than making a technological breakthrough. Innovation management, as I see it, is a two-step process: the management of ideas and the management of design control. Idea management involves new product proposals, detailed market analysis, and a thorough review, while design control involves design planning, review, output, verification, validation, and evaluation of customer perceptions. These are both very, very broad areas. And the reason why most companies don't invest a lot in R&D and don't have a very good R&D throughput is they don't see ROI on their dollars. So a lot of good leaders, CEOs, CFOs are very content to let the current business run without practicing what McKinsey calls Horizon 1, 2, and 3, where Horizon 1 is your main business, Horizon 2 is breakthrough, which is now becoming mainstream, and Horizon 3 is actually a canvas still out there, like electric vehicles, autonomous cars, or AI, which could be 5 or 10 years down the line. How managers and leaders can get out of this rut is practicing techniques like design thinking to do rapid prototyping, iterative innovation, and concurrent design with customers. This could actually lead to better technology and innovation management. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for envisioning us with your valued knowledge on the topic. To acknowledge the presence of Ms. Anka Verma, we would now like to present a memento to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this wonderful memento. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We look forward to a long-term association with you.
Looking forward to visit your academy, your university, school.
Thank you.
Once we are more moving more freely into this new world, because now we have to adapt, and I believe that everyone is looking forward to be back in the school.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much. To acknowledge the presence of Mr. Apurva Chamaria, I would like to request, sir, to please present a memento to him.
Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to request Professor Purnima Singh to please deliver the vote of thanks.
Respected dignitaries on and off dais, I feel really honored and privileged to propose this vote of thanks on this grand occasion of Aspect 2021. I, on behalf of Asian School of Business, would like to convey my deep gratitude and heartiest thanks to the eminent guests, Mr. Apurva and Ms. Anka Verma, as they were immensely benefiting with their inspiring addresses. And my sincere thanks to our director, Dr. Lalitavir Srivastava, as he has been a driving force behind the success of every event at ASB. I would like to extend my regards to also Dean ASB, Dr. Maruf Ahmed, for his encouragement and guidance. And last and the most important, I suppose, is the R&D cell members and our student coordinators. The day wouldn't have come true without the immense hard work they have put in. So thank you, and looking forward to the great presentation ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. We will now continue at 11:30 with the panel discussion on managing sustainability in innovation and product service development. All of you are please requested to join back using the same link. I welcome you all back to the panel discussion on the topic managing sustainability in innovation and product service development, which is an important imperative in today's dynamic business environment. It's also in line with today's conference theme. Our panelists for this section of the conference are Mr. Himanshu Manglik, founder and president, Walnut Cap Consulting. Mr. Himanshu is the founder and president of Walnut Cap Consulting. He's a management consultant with extensive cross-functional experience in working with multinational companies as well as Indian businesses in sales and marketing, brand management and communications, strategy and planning, and in turnaround situations. Mr. Himanshu has 40 years of experience across industry and academics and has been involved with handling many successful projects as well as resolving extraordinary crisis situations. An MBA from IIM Bangalore and a postgraduate in economics from Delhi University, he's currently also a visiting faculty and academic advisor at management schools including IIM Shillong and others in Lucknow, Indore, and Delhi. He has been on the board of Business and Community Foundation, writes extensively on issues relating to marketing, economy, and the society, and is invited as a jury and the panelist on public forums. He's of the firm belief that good leaders do not compromise on professional integrity and sustainable brands are anchored in ethical marketing. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Next, we have with us Ms. Ruma Bateja. She's a thought leader with 18 years of experience in the field of HR transformation practice, capability building, people strategy, HR technology, and analytics. An alumni of Exceleri with a management degree in HR, she has been pivotal in setting up HR functions from scratch in many organizations, with a special role in cultural transformation. Before co-founding Knowledgetics Research, she has played a pivotal role in the people development journey of companies like ExxonMobil, a top Fortune 500 company, Petro IT Limited, a Punj Group company, and All India Management Association, IMA. She loves working with multi-generational workforce and has an uncanny ability to bring the best in them. We welcome you, ma'am. Next, we have with us Professor Dr. Zaid Ahmed. Zaid Ahmed Ansari is the Director of Graduate Studies Unit at College of Business and Economics, Qasim University, Saudi Arabia. The college is AAC SB accredited. Dr. Ansari is PhD in Commerce from Aligarh Muslim University, India, and postgraduate from Tohoku University of Community Service and Science, Japan. He has also done Train the Trainers program from Greenwich University, UK. As a professor, his teaching and research interests are in the fields of marketing, consumer behavior, and e-commerce, as well as in human resource management. He has worked on various sponsored research projects. He has published research papers in several international journals and presented papers in international conferences. Besides teaching and research, he has good experience in administration and accreditation. He headed the accreditation of Jeddah University Jeddah Community College. Based on his knowledge and experience in accreditation, he participated as an expert in final accreditation team of COE for Makkah Community College. We welcome you, sir. Moderating the session would be Dr. Anubhuti Dwivedi, Principal, Asian School of Business. Dr. Anubhuti is an academician with 19 years of experience in postgraduate teaching and research in the area of economics, business environment, entrepreneurship, and research methodology. She's a doctorate in economics and a double postgraduate in economics and management. She's trained in teaching of entrepreneurship by Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India, a premier institute renowned worldwide in entrepreneurship development. Her national and international publications include 6 books, 18 research papers, and 2 cases. She has successfully completed an internationally funded research project funded for USD 7,500 by the New York University Stern School of Business and National Stock Exchange of India, and presented papers in various conferences at reputed institutes. She has been in various administrative positions where she has developed the institutional framework and has been at the core of conferences, seminars, FDPs, and MDPs while leading the team. She has been awarded the Woman of Excellence Award by Business View magazine and recognized as one of the top 10 most influential women leaders in Indian education by the Higher Education Digest. Now I pass on the session to Dr. Anubhuti Dwivedi.
A very warm good morning to all of you. I would like to welcome all my panelists again on the show, and then we would like to take this further, the session. A very important session on a very important topic, I must say. The theme of the conference is based on business interventions on managing technology and innovation. And we found it very pertinent to keep this topic of the plenary to link it with sustainability. Because when we talk of innovations will always be something which will drive business all across the world, all across the globe. But then we also need to think twice before putting in any innovation, before taking any business ahead, what we are actually doing in our generation and what will be leaving for the generations coming further. So sustainability today has become a very, very important issue in the global arena. Everyone, from politics to economics to science, technology, everyone is talking about innovations as well as sustainability. So when we decided this topic, managing sustainability in innovation and product or service development, the main thought that was behind was that when we innovate, so that is why we've kept it in 2 parts, like sustainability in innovation, first of all, and then in the product and service development. Because when we start conceiving any innovation, the idea, the very genesis of the idea should have that sustainability aspect in mind. That is what we thought of. And many companies in the world have actually been pioneered in all these things. If we talk of HP, for example, in 1990s itself, they actually had that thought in mind that the lead that they are using might be banned by the government at some time because it is hazardous. And by 2006, when it was actually banned, HP already had the product ready to be introduced in the market, and that is why they led the competition at that time. So these are certain things, how the businesses progress with sustainability. And the basic idea behind thinking that whether sustainability can go along with profitability in itself seemed a bit flawed when we see that those companies which are actually having the sustainability aspect in mind are the ones who are the leading businesses in the world. So when Schumpeter must have thought of innovation, and he said that entrepreneurs are those who strive for success for the sake of success and not for the fruits of success, he meant by success most probably not only profitability, and he meant something to be added to the society, to the environment. And that is how we are today here to discuss this very important topic. And we have our eminent panelists with us, Mr. Himanshu Manglik, Ms. Rooma Batheja, and Professor Zayed Ahmed. And I would request all our panelists now to share their views one by one. So I would first request Mr. Himanshu to please put across his views and give us insights about this topic, like what are his thoughts, and because he has a very wide experience in this industry, in consulting. So I think he's the best person to first talk about this and how the world can be made more sustainable as well as innovative. So sir, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Before I sort of start talking on this, I'd like to differentiate a little bit between sustainability for the organization and for the environment and sustainability for product innovation. Because product innovation, sustainability is really about ensuring that your product does not get outmoded. It continues to have a differentiation built or created so that it survives. Sustainability of the organization is also a mix of the product portfolio, but what it does with the community also, and the perception that people have of that organization. So somewhere we will talk about both, but we'll try and focus more on the product sustainability. Now, innovation and renovation, as I understand it, and as I've experienced it over the years, especially with Nestle, is really about culture and a mindset. The way the organization handles it, manages it, is really how it creates a culture, and the vision of the chairman, it becomes very important. I want to give an example here of Nestle itself. Very clear focus on where you want to go and how you want to add value or make a difference to the lives of a consumer or the community. Nestle wants to be the leading health and nutrition company in the world. It is, but it continues to keep on improving on that, become stronger. Many years ago, the then chairman and managing director, Peter Brabeck, said, "We're becoming too big as an organization. We're like an unwieldy ship which takes time to turn around. And therefore, we need to rework our organization into smaller fleet of speedboats. So each different businesses will be like speedboats, moving quickly, understanding the consumer and what they need and how you can sort of help them move up the ladder." So in reality, what we're talking about is a mindset that needs to be created, because innovation is about the cusp between analytic and creative minds. And for that, you require knowledge, openness, encouragement, and a focus. Now, let's look at two things. The company has focused on what it wants to be doing with community, and it continues doing it efficiently and proficiently. But the mindset it has built is one of business excellence. Now, business excellence means that all the teams are forever looking at the product or their service and saying, how can we improve it further? Give me a moment to sort of transition. Nestle believes that there should never be revolution. Things should be evolving slowly and gradually because you understand how things are changing. You're not disrupting. You're the leader. Disruption happens when new technologies come in suddenly and you've not anticipated that. Leaders don't allow that. Leaders continue to strengthen their capabilities. So even before SAP, etc., became a buzzword, Nestle had already moved in to try and develop its own technology platform that it uses internally. Now that's what's making the business continue to progress and allowing every other business internally to function. Come back to products. The job of the product manager or the marketing manager or the head of that business is to ensure creating differentiation. That differentiation comes in when you immerse yourself not in technology, but in the consumer. You empathize with what the consumer, your end segment, is doing, understand them, and find a way to create that either a product or an experience. I think design thinking is a very good emerging initiative, thought process, and we can talk about that later. But for the moment, may I leave it here, or would you like me to continue further?
If you want to say something more, you can. And,
Okay.
Then I'll invite the other guests.
All right. So let's take a couple of examples. How did this business continue to be sustainable for Nestle? It's essentially into foods. It has its vertical in infant nutrition, Cerelac, etc. It has its chocolate and confectionery business. It has coffee, and it has milks. If you look at each of these, coffee became a huge business for Nestle because it innovated using this consumer requirement. Most people may not know that when Nescafe instant coffee was formulated, there was a glut of coffee in Brazil. And the government invited Nestle saying, you have R&D facilities. Can you find a way to make this sustainable? So they developed instant coffee granules. And since then, they've been able to store coffee. And the coffee drinking habit itself has changed because they looked ahead and said, what is it that the consumer really will need? Not what it's wanting now, but what is the lifestyle that they're likely be doing? Look at Maggi. Maggi started off with noodles, in India at least. It moved into ketchups, it moved into something called Puna Masala. It moved into something called Masala Magic, which is micronutrient reinforced tastemaker. Each of these are really an example of design thinking, where you empathize with the consumer, you start defining what their problems could be. I mean, Bhuna Masala, for example, is nothing new. Each housewife goes into a kitchen, spends half an hour cutting, making a paste for to make the vegetables. Bhuna Masala was a development by the Maggi group in their R&D facility to create a paste which gives you the same kind of taste and health, but uses only 2 minutes rather than half an hour. So it's the ability to move ahead and start and continue thinking of what your product can do and how it will outlast the competition which will follow you. If you look at chocolates, Cadbury has been the leader. Chocolates is synonymous with Cadbury. In fact, people say Nestle ki Cadbury or Cadbury ki Nestle, it's that way. But Nestle did not follow the bar chocolates that Cadbury is famous for, the milk chocolate. It went into wafer. Because there is a need for health and nutrition, lighter eating. And therefore they developed something which had the taste of chocolate, but the lightness of wafers. You know, these are things which get picked up into what I believe, and something which Nestle has taught me, is the concept of creating shared value. No innovation can survive unless it adds value to your consumer as well as to organization. So innovations that are sustainable add to the profitability and to the benefit. If either is missing, it cannot be sustainable. I think I would leave this here, and then we can talk about it later.
Sure, sir. I'll get back to you on certain aspects. I would now request our next guest, Ms. Ruma, to please throw some light on this topic. As sir was talking about, leaders strengthening the capabilities, and you being the HR head and having so much of experience in HR, maybe you would like to enlighten us on the people's aspect also on the sustainability of innovations. Please, ma'am.
Thank you, Anubhuti ma'am. So I am trying to structure my next 3-4 minutes of opinion into three different dimensions. So one dimension which I'm going to touch is about obviously the perception of leaders, what goes behind, the mind and the machine together when we talk about specifics of sustainability. Second, how are companies practicing this when we talk about technology innovations? And third, what is the way ahead, which I would give my recommendations on. So as you know, I represent the firm, Knowledgetics Research, which is into TMT, Telecom, Media and Technology. So fortunately, I have been able to upskill myself into the technology part. And when we deal with the leaders specific to tech companies or product companies, what I find is that the angle of sustainability somehow is not the prime focus and is limited to CSR. You know, CSR, okay, fine, we need to do something beyond, we need to do something, okay, let's put it into CSR. So be it environment, be it economy, be it society, the three pillars of sustainability. And now we have added the fourth pillar, which is well-being and health as UN SDG goal 3, which Unilever is really working hard for that. So what comes from the leader's mind is sustainable manufacturing will demand new equipments and process. Hence, it adds to cost. Customers are not ready to pay more because we're having a tough competition with the developing nation and the developed nation, because in developing nation the regulatory affairs are not extremely stringent when we talk about sustainability, and also the suppliers can't provide green inputs or transparency in the mechanism. So the problem comes that the leaders, and when I'm talking about the leader, there's a very big organization I'm talking about who are our clients. So they're not linking sustainability of technology innovation with business objective. And the moment you don't link it with business objective, probably your entire focus is not, focused towards that particular angle. And as you rightly said, Anubhuti ma'am, that in 1990s, HP realized this and they converted their toxic lead solders by amalgamating tin, silver, and one more metal, copper, together. And that brought and saved them from numerous hazards, not only in terms of environmental hazards, but also in terms of regulatory changes which was foreseen by them. So that's what the corporates, the leaders together need to focus on sustainability towards business goal, business objective, drill down it to not only in the leaders, but also as a KRA of people. Okay, so what is the future? Let me combine my first point and third point. The future should be, it should be a national responsibility wherein we bring corporates together, we bring governmental agencies together, and people like us to bring in that movement together, because it's really we're running late in this particular area and approach. Thankfully, what is happening around, I can see Google has reduced their carbon footprint drastically with the help of their data centers. So in 2017, now they're using 100% renewable energy to power their data centers, which is something very important because e-waste management is a huge issue right now. 2 years back, there was a research which was conducted in which out of approximately 54 companies, only 7 companies were tagged good in terms of managing their e-waste. And those 7 were HP, Intex, Samsung, Ricoh, and Dell, or one more organization. And I was aghast to see when it didn't have the names like Apple, LG, and Hitachi. In fact, these companies performed below average in the survey. So that shows and highlights why it is important for us to align it with our business objective. That's one point. Second point, the good part is that we can also see organizations doing really well. Like if you have heard of a company named Subaru. Subaru is a car manufacturer in US. It has 2 centers in Japan and 1 center in United States. It literally recycles everything and reuses everything. So since last 12 years, it has not sent any waste to local landfills. That's an example we need to cite to people. Toyota, again, it's a big name, so people will know about Toyota. There has been 96% waste reduction, which is equivalent to a saving of 99 million pounds. That's another angle to be looked at. General Motors have built in 152 zero waste management facilities. And what they're using water bottles to recycle and create parts for their engine cover insulation and air filters. So this is how we need to look at different methods when we innovate our products, when we build in technological upgradation in our services, in our products. And that's one of the part which we always try to highlight our clients as well. So corporate has to play a lead role, people's attitude, perception has to play a lead role, and then comes the part of governmental regulations and rules. There was a very interesting article which I had written on Sweden. So Swedish cities basically create passive homes, passive houses. Now, what do they do through these passive houses is they convert human energy, human activities, electrical appliances, and sunlight into heat energy that power them. So how do we save electricity? At Stockholm Central Station, the geothermal system captures body heat from over 250,000 daily commuters. That's the way they are thinking. So that's the way we have to think, and as a whole, as a nation, by introducing carbon tax, which has been introduced by Finland in 1990, by creating passive houses, or by having 100% renewable energy by 2050, which is what Denmark is trying to do. These are different kind of angles we need to relook at to club the concept of sustainability into technology and innovation. Rather than having one way of thinking, let's build it in this way. And it is not possible to do it alone. So we need a lot of stakeholders and serious work ahead in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Ruma. That was wonderful with so many examples. I think all our students are also enlightened at how the world is going around with these sustainability practices. And I'll come back to you with the same questions about India a bit later. So I would now request Professor Dr. Zayed Ahmed to put on his views regarding this, because he's been into business and economics, academics, and he has traveled a lot. He's been to Japan also, which is known for these sustainability and innovative practices. So I would just request you, sir, to please enlighten us on this topic.
Thank you so much for, first of all, inviting me and giving me this opportunity to share this platform with such enlightened and industry, practitioners, to put my, to share the platform and put my views. And I see that there are around 300 students in this panel discussion who are participating. I really welcome them. To be honest, what I was thinking, but that we are going to talk something about emerging business interventions for managing technology and innovation. But somehow this has turned again to be a luckier session for me, because sustainability is something which I will say I'm very emotionally attached to, and I like to. Am I audible?
Yes, yes,
you're audible. Okay, perfectly. So this is something, I'm emotionally attached to, I will call it. So in this perspective, I would like to draw the attention to a very recent, development that is going in one part of the world, that is America, and that too through Elon Musk. If you realize his innovations, I will quote his examples, that he has actually done for sustainability. So what actually he has proven right now, that sustainability is not an unsustainable business model. It is actually very much sustainable business model that we need to actually think about, because it is the leaders who are going to actually come up with ideas and suggestions and business models that will help our future generation. The best part I like in him is that he has proven that things are not, sustainability is not an unsustainable concept. That is what I'm trying to say here. This is the first part. Now see, what he has done is, as a business leader, some of his innovations, I'm really impressed by him, to be honest. That he's a business tycoon, he is an innovator, he is a researcher, he is everything. But above all, he is a sustainable entrepreneur. So what he has done is, he has recently commercialized these electric cars. So whether the world follows him, accepts his model or no, but they will be forced to accept it now. We all are. We will be forced. It is going to move across the globe. Now, beside this, what he is doing is something very remarkable. He is trying to provide power to the entire world through his lithium batteries, that he is working on continuously. Now, his concept is that once this is successfully again successful and it is developed, he is planning to provide power to the entire world, and he is continuously working on that. He has already established some of the factories, and it is once it is done, so again a great work in the area of sustainability. Third thing that I really liked in him is, and I would like to quote to the especially to the students, that how he came with these ideas. It is really interesting. If you most of you have followed him, you see, like he is now coming up with the idea of underground tunnels. It is already under process, with with his company Boring. Why? Because he doesn't, and someone asked him, why you don't go for flying cars? They are also innovation. He said, because they are going to pollute our environment, in some way, in sound way, and they will spoil the image of a natural environment. So with all these, actually things being done with one entrepreneur, and then what I mean to say here is, it is just a thought, a determination needed by our entrepreneurs, that we have to, to be sustainable. And it is a practical business model right now. Now, the question is, all these innovations, how we are going to apply? Who will be the implementing agencies for this? So very often, as Ruma ma'am has correctly said, that it is not a task of any individual. It is not task of any individual. We need a complete model where it should come through the government, which will be participated, which will be supported by the industry. They have to. Then, most importantly, I will emphasize this is that the educational institutions, they have to work on this, because they are the producers of the employees. They are the producers of educated citizens in the society. So, and then the third one is very, very important again, the masses. The masses has to take it up. Now, once it starts, on all fronts together. So, industry, educational institutions, government, and masses, once they integrate themselves for the sustainability model of business, trust me, it is going to take up. Now, some examples that I want to quote here, I want to share with, is like, I had been to Japan. I had stayed there for some time, quite time there. So I had been to cities, and the interior of Japan is really beautiful, to worth seeing. So why I'm saying this, every single individual, I'm quoting this, every single individual houses, they are having solar panels on their roofs. Trust me, that was amazing. And with that, tsunami, when their thermal power system was collapsed, within 24 hours, they restarted everything with alternative source of, things, the entire, the thing Not only this, the people and the government, they are so, uh, they are so much committed to these things, that they are actually producing electricity, renewable electricity in their houses, and supplying it back to the government if they have excess electricity capacity, something very incredible. So what I'm trying to say here is, especially my focus are the students here, that we need to get into the habit of practicing things, practicing things from here, from the management and the educational institutes. We should immediately come up with new curriculum, new syllabuses, where we have compulsory sustainability models. This is something that I want to say here, and I really believe that this sustainability model is sustainable, and we need to work out on this.
you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Zai. And that was a very noble thought that, the educational institutions must come up and promote this culture of innovation.
Exactly.
And I'm proud to say that, like, I'm proud to share rather that we have an Institutions Innovation Council in our institute, which has been established under the Ministry of HRD at that time and now Ministry of Education. And we are actually promoting this mindset as well as conducting various workshops for the students to learn. And with that, I would come back to Himanshu, sir, because he talked about design thinking. So, sir, normally what we see, connecting the 2 points, actually, the education and the design thinking aspect, we have different entrepreneurship courses running in different universities across the world and all. But then if we see in the developing nations, basically, this, enlightenment, what we say, or the awareness about these alternative things which have come up now, which are so important, like design thinking, have still not been incorporated into the syllabi. Do you think that that is one of the reasons why we are actually not creating the professionals who are industry ready and who are ready to actually produce sustainable products and services? And how can we collaborate, the industry and academia, together to produce such professionals who are trained in training also and actually developing such products also, which are based on design thinking? So just like to have your words on that, sir.
I think it's a very relevant question, but in my opinion, design thinking is a terminology. It's a very high-sounding terminology, very impressive. But if we go to the basic philosophy, it's something that we've been practicing, but not in the proper way, without realizing the discipline behind it. I just want to go back a little to what Professor Zaidi said and Ruma said. Excellent ideas, suggestions. But my dissonance there is that if you look at technology as the enabler, then let's leave technology as the enabler. It's an input. What you have is the human mind that will innovate and renovate. And we have to get that human mind to start working. Let that mind process the information, take help from technology. And good companies have been doing it for a long time. I'm very biased towards Nestle because I think they've been doing an excellent job and is an excellent example.
That's
it works.
That's why Maggie is so popular, because perhaps that is an example of design thinking. What Indians needed at that time, Nestle could give it.
Yes, but I want to go beyond to the deeper aspect. Nestle does CSR, but doesn't say, all right, any project that comes to it, it'll work on that. It's identified 3 areas: water, health, and rural development as 3 areas where it will work. And it says there might be other areas where our going in might be beneficial, but these 3 areas are the ones that benefit us the most and where we have knowledge that we can contribute to benefit society the most or community the most. So the intersection of our knowledge and the needs of society are best met in these 3 areas, and we will focus on that. So once you focus on something, then you start looking at how you can improve there and employ technology or knowledge to create things. Now, an example of here is Nestle makes milk, high quality milk. To ensure that it gets good quality, it works with the communities, it guides them, it gives them knowledge, it helps them develop and take care of the cattle and how to preserve or how soon to ensure that milk reaches the chillers. Now that is, in a sense, design thinking that's been going on. What is the need? What's the human requirement of the suppliers? How do I help them? Can I improve something that they benefit more? And then I create a brand, a perception of myself, and I continue to evolve and add on to that. However, come back to specific design thinking. A couple of years ago, Hindustan Levers relaunched RIN. It says this formulation of RIN will save roughly 50% of water which would normally be used in washing clothes. Now that's design thinking, saying water is a priority. We need to find a way to save it. How do I bring that into my product which is being used? How can I influence the consumer to come back? So my product is creating differentiation through this innovation. And I'm creating sustainability not only for my product, but for society. So design thinking really is not a linear thing. It has roughly, everyone knows, 4 or 5 things, where you empathize, where you sort of define the problem, you start ideating, you create a prototype and you test it. Now, linear means that you will start with empathizing, defining, but it could happen anywhere. I might create something, then I work backward and say, how does this fit in? Does this have relevance? Does this improve things in any way? So design thinking is that focus, understanding that there is no linearity, but there are elements that we need to look at, and that needs to be allowed, encouraged in companies. You know, companies say we have design thinking, but if you go to a good design thinking place, let's say Google, you'll have workplaces littered with toys and sofas and, you know, bean bags, people sitting around, lounging around, because they're thinking in their own way. They're not custom bound, they're not in strict disciplinary things. A lot of companies are beginning to understand and do that. They've set aside rooms where you can go spend time, read, think, do, listen to music, but you start living. You're encouraging the managers to look at people and situations, say, what's happening? A wonderful example I came across. An ex-employee of the International Water Management Institute in Hyderabad, he was traveling by air and he saw his co-passenger trying to scrape up food with khakra, that Gujarati stuff, not using a spoon. And that made him start thinking. And he created a spoon made of sorghum, which itself can be eaten after you finish using it as a spoon. Now that's thinking. That's making it sustainable because more and more people will like this concept. I'm not destroying anything. I'm using and finishing it. So I would like to leave it this, because design thinking is a much more deeper subject.
Yes, sir. We would love to have you someday, sir, for another interactive session on design thinking with us.
Thank you.
That was lovely, sir. Coming back to Ms. Rumal, actually, you made a very wonderful point that we are actually, if we see the comparison between developed and developing nations on this aspect, it's huge. So I was going through this Forbes top 100 list of sustainable companies, and not even a single Indian company features there. So, like, how do you think that the leaders can make a difference and we can actually reach that level where we are also considered, the developing world and India, most I would say, being the leader, we claim at least in WTO and everywhere that India is leading the developing nations thing. So China is there, but India is not there anywhere in those top sustainable 100 companies. So how can we reach there? What are your views on that?
I think we all know the answer of that. But to just put a couple of points here is, first, it should start with us. A simple, because just now I realize it's not only industry professionals, students are also here. A simple thing which we use every day is RO, water. How much water is wasted every time we try to filter it out, okay? So again, design thinking while creating that product would have brought lot of changes in our normal day-to-day life, okay? So it should start from us. Then obviously the leaders, their perception needs to be changed, that if we are adding to the cost of bringing in zero waste management, bringing in sustainability in our processes, in our product line, in our service line, in our operations, I think it's worth the shot, because we can't give this as a gift to the future generation to struggle with. So that's another thought process we need to think about it. Third is, government really needs, and I will not say only the government, the policy makers, different bodies, they have to really bring this out of the context of just panel discussions. It's all about implementation. We have to do that. So today we are talking about it. Tomorrow we may talk about something else. Day after tomorrow we may talk about something else. But at the end of the day, what happens? What is the implementation of it? Nothing. And that's what we have been seeing for so long. So, some figures are really astonishing. For example, if you see in a population of 7.8 billion, there are 2.3 billion humans who lack basic well-being and hygiene facilities. So they lack clean drinking water facilities. They lack sanitation. 2.3 billion out of 7.8 billion. I'm quite sure India's proportion of population will be huge in this number. So what are we doing in that? So Unilever initially has targeted around 1 million goal of organizing awareness campaigns on this through their product lines. So that's something which they're doing well. They have achieved the target beforehand by reaching to 1.3 billion of the population. So why to leave it to Unilever? I think all of us have to put our hands together to get things rolling and moving. So again, coming back to the same point, it's us, it's the society together, it's the policymakers, it's the leaders of the corporates. It's time for us to think beyond. And a very apt point by Mr. Himanshu, which probably I quickly noted it down because I'm also a design thinking trainer and I have missed this point that why universities, if they, or probably not only universities, school level. So in school, when you really love your teachers, you respect your teachers to that extent that you imbibe their qualities more than the parents. So I have a daughter, she will listen to her teachers more than she listens to me. So if we start this from that level, I think then we are in good hands because they are our future leaders. We are not doing anything, probably if we sow the seed right now in them, they can bring in a change for the future generation. So it's high time we should think about all these different kind of models of what will help us to carry forward this agenda of sustainability.
Very rightly said, very rightly said. And with that, I remember that we had actually a competition. We had Mr. Binish Desai here, the recycling man of India, in a webinar. And at that time only we had initiated a competition called InnoWaste, where the students had actually presented their ideas on recycling. So when you were talking of this water filtering, so there were students who presented that how they are using that water which is coming out of RO and how they are using it in plants and washing and, floor sweeping and all. I hope that my students are keeping up with those ideas and are actually working towards, conserving water. And with that, I also remember just, a few days back, I had read that PNG had introduced this cold wash concept in the developed nations, where they actually are far more colder than our countries, and still they are into that they are introducing those type of products. The Tide version was there of cold wash there in, I think, Europe or US, and then they became prevalent. But in India, if we see the automatic washing machines, they are designed with a temperature set of 30 and 40 only. So we have no option of cold wash in certain machines. So perhaps there also we need to focus that how a common man has to be made aware. So very rightly said that it will start from us. Thank you so much. So Dr. Zayed, just one question from you now. Like R&D budgets in India, we see are very low. So now, because you've been into different countries and you've seen how the different countries are actually putting in their budgets and being into business and economics fields since so long, I would just like to ask that, are we being myopic? Is it something that because our R&D budgets are so low that we are not even thinking of sustainability? We are just focusing on how do we cut costs and just keep, putting towards in the market whatever consumers are buying at the moment, and not thinking about long-term and long-term sustainable products as well as sustainable environment?
Actually, I have a different opinion on this, to be honest to you. Generally, it goes with, if you see even the developed countries, it is not that they have all of a sudden they have started thinking of, sustainability. There was a long period of time where they have spoiled everything, in terms of, sustainable environment. Let it be anything. Exactly. So it is what I would like to say here is that it is not by choice they are doing. Let me put it this way. Now they have been forced to do that. But being a developing country, it is our advantageous position. I would put it this way. We are in advantageous position that, okay, it is not always necessary to experience, every bitter thing. Are you getting? As you are saying, is the government or any one institution or the society being myopic? we need to realize that, okay, for them, that was, there was no concern about sustainability when they started their growth, industrial revolution and all those things, period came. But now we are blessed, to be honest to you. We are blessed in a way that all these sustainability models, sustainability concepts, sustainability practices are ready-made for us. So for sure, either we do or someone else will have to do for us. Are you getting me? Either we do or someone else will be doing for us. So I will not comment on that, whether it is being myopic or it is something else. But for sure, the government level, my emphasis is always on the educational institutions, because as Ruma ma'am has said that, teachers can do miracles with their students. What I believe is, if I take it practically, there are 271 participants here, which means 271 families, to be honest to you. And if these 271 families start practicing sustainability from today, it will have a multiplier effect very soon. The point is that I am talking very good here, to be honest, but after the session, I may start wasting everything in my own home. So this is the habit that I need to inculcate, you need to inculcate, and everyone. I was listening to a lecture from one girl in America, TEDx. You all know that. In her entire life, she brought that she has produced a handful of waste in her entire life, and she was healthy, she was smart, she was educated, she was having, social relations, relatives, everything. The point that we must realize is, either we do it now or someone will force us to do this in future. Let it be individuals, let it be business organizations. See, what happens is, if any business organization as a business intervention, they are not going for sustainability practices, sooner or later they will have to close. Trust me, there are big examples in this case. They have to change, they have to innovate. If either they innovate or someone innovated will replace them. The concept is very clear. So I would like to suggest that yes, it is the need of the time. There are big examples at the country level, like Japan is there. At the organization level, like Elon Musk's full list of company, he has established a solar city. He has working on lithium batteries. He has introduced, boring company for underground tunnels. He has introduced commercialized electric car. Just because of this one innovation, in 10 months, around 10 months, somewhere in March, he was worth $25 billion. Now he is around $200 billion, one of the richest man on the earth. So the innovations, they have their own long-term, results also. So this is all I have to say. One more point that I want to emphasize, that I realized in Japan, actually, that changed my perspective of life. The waste being produced in any society, from the industry, from the households, from the factories, it is huge and enormous. What these Japanese are doing is that they have the strictest law, strictest, I will emphasize this, most serious law to control, manage this waste. They have strict guidelines. Every individual has to follow that. And that is how they are, managing the sustainability. So either we do or someone else in future will do, for sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And it's better that we do today, because, sooner we realize it will be better.
Better, exactly.
That was a very enlightening discussion with all the guests, and I want to thank all of you, and would request Ms. Kavita to please take the event ahead.
I thank all the panelists for a very enlightening session. And to acknowledge the presence of all the panelists, I would now like to present mementos. Presentation of memento to Mr. Himanshu Manglik. We thank you, sir, for gracing the occasion with your insightful words.
Thank you so much.
I would now like to present a memento to Ms. Ruma. Thank you, ma'am.
This again talks about innovation, e-mementos. Thank you so much.
Exactly.
Correct.
Moving forward, I would like to acknowledge the presence and thank Dr. Zaid Ahmed with the presentation of the memento. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Moving forward, I would now like to request Professor Shivali Verma, Coordinator, R&D Cell, Asian School of Business, to please deliver the vote of thanks.
A very warm and cherishing morning to afternoon to all of you. So I'm mindful of the fact that I'm the last person standing here between you and the end of the session. So I'll keep it very short. First of all, I would like to extend my generous thanks to the entire guest panel that have joined us from long distances for your support and cooperation. I would like to thank Mr. Himanshu Manglik, sir, who, for your kind presence. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your, insights on, what are the potential sustainable business, practices that we can take up. Also for sharing your warm experience on how Nestle has, gradually evolved over the years. I would also like to thank Ms. Ruma Bateja for sparing your precious time, ma'am. Thank you so much for being with us. And thank you for telling us, how India can sustainably put its resources into use. So thank you for joining us. And now I would also like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to Professor Dr. Zaid Ahmed Ansari. Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us with the fact that there is also a need to make use of coming together of education institutes, cooperates in a collective effort of students, and that is how we ensure sustainability. And further, I would like to thank the director, sir, principal, ma'am, and dean, sir, for their continuous support and guidance along the event. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your appreciating involvement and willingness for making this panel a great, great, great success. Thank you so much, everyone. And this is where I would like to end, but not forgetting our audience. So thank you so much for your valuable patience and joining us for today. Thank you so much.
The technical session will be over a Zoom meeting. The details have already been shared with the registered participants, the delegates, and the audiences. You're required to join for the technical session at 1:30. Please note that there are 4 different Zoom ID details for the 4 tracks, and you may join as per your registration in a particular track. At the conclusion of the event, we will have the valedictory session 4 p.m. onwards. Hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
A very good evening, and we welcome everyone back to the most eagerly awaited section of the conference. On the dais, I welcome back Dr. Anubhuti Trivedi, Principal, Asian School of Business, and Dr. Maruf Ahmed Mir, Dean, Asian School of Business. We also thank all our guests and chairs of the different tracks. Now I request Dr. Maruf Ahmed Mir to please summarize the day.
Good evening, one and all present. I understand it has been a long day and a hectic day also, but it has been a fruitful day, I'm sure. We started with the inaugural session at 10 a.m. We had wonderful speakers in the morning. Then we had a very good, productive panel discussion with our guests. And then it was followed by the 5 tracks of paper presentations. We received a number of research papers and abstracts, and out of those, 117 were shortlisted. And out of 117, around 65 presentations we had across the globe, and all were live over Zoom meeting. And it got extended because there was a lot of energy. We had planned it that the valedictory will be at 4, will be 3 by 3:45, but it got extended to 4:30. And that's how good conferences happen. There were a lot of discussions. We had we were happy to see a lot of presentations in different areas of finance, marketing, HR, general management, and IT. So at the end, obviously, there are the best of the papers. Everybody has contributed, be it the student category, be it the general category of scholars and the faculty members, all over India and from the other parts of the country. So it has been a wonderful day. I won't take much time because it's the close of the day now. That's all from my side. I would like to thank everybody for making this event a great success.
Thank you, sir. I request the dignitaries on the dais to please do the honors of presentation of memento as an acknowledgement of appreciation to our guests who have joined us virtually. Dr. Rasim Ozkan, Professor, School of Humanities and Social Sciences, Ibn Khaldun University, Istanbul, Turkey. We thank you, sir, for your valuable contribution. Thank you. Dr. Ali Osman, Associate Professor, School of Management, Ibn Khaldun University, Istanbul, Turkey. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable contribution in the track. Moving on to the most awaited part of this conference, we had Best Paper Award under 2 categories. The general category, where the paper presentations were done by faculty and research scholars under 4 different tracks, and the student category, where students presented papers from the undergraduate and the postgraduate. The general category papers were divided amongst 4 tracks. Moving on to the best papers under the 4 tracks. General Management and IT, the best paper is presented to Ms. Purnima Singh, Asian Business School, and Mr. Himanshu Chaturvedi. Congratulations, participants. The second track, Marketing, the best paper award goes to Dr. Ritu Talwar from NDIM. Congratulations, ma'am. The best paper award in the HR track is for Mohit Sharma, IFCO Kisan Finance. Congratulations, sir. In the finance category, the best paper was presented to Dr. Atif Gayas and Dr. Tasneem Fatima Khan, both from Aligarh Muslim University. Moving on to the 5th category, the student category, the best paper award goes to Ashish Naula, a student of Asian Business School. We congratulate you, Ashish. We congratulate all the participants and especially the winners of the 5 different tracks. All the participants will get e-certificates and an e-copy of the souvenir, which is the book of extracts, within a maximum of 15 days. Those who have been awarded the Best Paper Award can collect the framed copy of the certificates from the college on any working day. Now I would like to request Dr. Anubhuti Dwivedi to please address the audience.
Good evening, everyone. It's been an enlightening and enriching experience throughout the day today, listening to the experts, listening to the various researchers, and even our students, the way enthusiastically they've participated in this conference and actually developed the research aptitude and attitude. That has been a good knowledge sharing platform, I believe, for everyone. And this will take us forward in the quest for actually managing the technology and innovation and actually understanding the business interventions which will help. And as per the plenary, we will also be, going to the sustainability practices also while innovating things. So this has been a very nice experience, and I hope all the audience who are there with us connected today and all the researchers and delegates from all over the world who were associated throughout the day with us have also felt the same. I congratulate the Research and Development Cell for organizing such a successful event, and we look forward to our association in future also. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, I would like to request Professor Jaya Khatri, Coordinator R&D Cell, Asian School of Business, to kindly deliver the vote of thanks.
A warm, cheerful evening to everyone. It is my privilege to propose a vote of thanks and acknowledge the contribution of those who have worked hard to make this day a big success. On behalf of Team RDC and entire fraternity of Asian Education Group, my sincere thanks to the Almighty God. Thanks to the eminent guests who spent their busiest time gracing this occasion. In the inaugural session, we had Ms. Anka Verma, Ms. Apurva Chamaria, who spared their valuable time and joined us to grace the occasion. Later today, we also had the opportunity of having Mr. Himanshu Manglek, Professor Zaid, Ruma Bhatija. To the respected board of plenary panel, it was encouraging to hear their thoughts and new insight on the potential ways to undertake sustainable innovation in the business sphere. I would further like to extend my gratitude to the most experienced and learned academicians from across the world. We have Dr. Hashim Al-Nimir, Associate Professor of Finance, Director of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, Central College of Business, University of Jeddah, Makkah, Saudi Arabia. Dr. Prachi Bhatt from Ford School of Management. Dr. Rasim Uzkan, Professor, School of Humanities and Social Sciences, Ibn Khaldun University, Istanbul, Turkey. Dr. Ali Usman, Associate Professor, School of Management, Ibn Khaldun University, Istanbul, Turkey. Dr. Samishta Sarma, Professor Marketing from New Delhi. This type of event can't happen overnight. We have been fortunate to be supported by a team of very active and dedicated seniors. Mr. Sandeep Marwa, President, Asian Education Group, Mr. Akshay Marwa, CEO, Asian Education Group, Dr. Lalitya V. Srivastava, Mr. Saurabh Sharma, and Mr. Gurdeep Singh Raina, Directors, Asian Education Group, for their continuous guidance and motivation. I would like to extend my thanks to Dr. Anubhuti Dwivedi, Principal, Asian School of Business, and Dr. Maruf Ahmed Mir, Dean, Asian School of Business, who extended their keen supervision and continuous guidance throughout the planning and execution of the event. It could not have been possible without them to successfully walk through the whole conference. I would like to mention my deep sense of appreciation to Mr. Ravi Sharma, Dean CRC, and other deans and heads of different departments for their continuous support. I thank all the internal session chairs, faculty team, and our vigilant team of student coordinators for their valuable patience and support. Special thanks to our IT team who have been there on their toes for us throughout the event. It would not have been possible for us to have had such smooth proceedings throughout the day without their continuous support. And a heartfelt gratitude to all the participants who has joined us across the world. Thank you all for being such a strong support and source of inspiration to keep organizing such events in future. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you had enriching and a fruitful day with us. Thank you once again.
Thank you, ma'am. At the conclusion of the event, I would like to once again, on behalf of Asian School of Business, thank everyone for the contributions to the conference to make it a grand success. A very warm thank you and wish you have a good day ahead. Thanks.